There are very strict gun laws in Canada and a lot of laws against terrorism, but that didn't stop a incel Marxist from attacking Pornhub yesterday in a Jewish neighborhood of Montreal. Whew, okay, the layers here are getting crazy. He also killed a cop named Muhammad. It's awful. And then Muhammad's female partner ended up blasting a civilian that spooked her as she was clearly panicked and incapable of responding correctly to the emergency in front of her. It's a total tragedy. It's a nightmare. It reads like some type of dark Seinfeld script. And it's something that the media won't ever report to you. So that's what we're going to do here. CNN glossing over the fact that this incel that started the whole thing, right? So the terrorist who's a Marxist, he left a 100-page manifesto against capitalism, against the free market, against Jews, and against porn. And by the way, he was attacking what seems to be Pornhub's headquarters. Okay, when this female cop, as we covered yesterday, you can find the footage. We're not going to play it here. You can find the footage. A man is fleeing from the incel that's trying to shoot up everyone and just shot her partner, Muhammad, who's laying on the ground. And she gets spooked and shoots him, and you can see it on camera. It's awful. And it brings to question, do we need to take a very hard look at the specific careers and the capacity for the genders to perform those careers? Because there's differences between males and females on average. Science proves this. The creation of God's creation proves this. The chemicals in our blood and our brains, down to our very chromosomes that knit us together, prove this. And there's just differences. And a lot of those differences are physical. And we need to ask these questions when it comes to physical jobs where lives are on the line. I'm assembling a team. This is a pretty viral tweet. Assembling a team. Here's the Montreal female cop. Here's the female fire chief that allowed for all of LA to burn. I ran out of water. I don't know how to fight a fire. Here's up close the classic Melissa McCarthy, Secret Service agent, who nearly shot Trump and herself during Trump's Butler assassination attempt. You remember this? Remember how she couldn't get her gun in her holster here? Nothing says confidence like shaking so much you can't get your gun in your holster. Right here, right there. See that? The chick in the sunglasses. Of course you see it. She can't get her gun in her holster. She didn't know where to put it. Like, does this inspire confidence? Should this person be part of the Secret Service? Of course not. And then, in a very dark turn of events, the pilot that flew the Apache helicopter that flew directly into a U.S. American Airlines commercial flight, killing a bunch of adults and children. It's awful. Anyway, she didn't know what the hell she was doing, flying a helicopter. She's a DEI hire. She was a hire who worked in the Biden White House, and she was being forced into this position because Biden's like, put more women in, make more women combat pilots. Nope. Like, you shouldn't be hiring combat pilots on anything other than their ability to pilot a deadly weapon the most efficiently and effectively as possible. So their physical and mental capacities to do that. But of course, this pilot slaughtered a bunch of people in the deadliest air collision in modern history in America. An Army helicopter slams into. So it keeps getting worse, man. So the manifesto, this is what they'll keep from you. This is what they'll hide from you. Seth Hatfield, he's the shooter. Of course, he's the bad guy here, right? But the consequences of a improperly structured society led to more death, and that's why we got to talk about this. So we went on a shooting spree in a Jewish neighborhood in Montreal. He was attacking what we think is actually Jewish-owned Pornhub in that neighborhood. Soon afterward, Pornhub's ran by a rabbi. That's true, though. Like that, this is empirically true. This is
behind Pornhub.
The rabbi.
Who is the former rabbi behind Pornhub.
Who's the rabbi?
Solomon Friedman grew up in an Orthodox Jewish family in Canada, once trained as a rabbi in Israel, and now he's become the public face of the world's biggest porn site.
Okay, that porn site is right in that neighborhood in Montreal. It's owned by Aleo Partners. They own Pornhub, RedTube, YouPorn, Braziers, Reality Kings. So they operate like the smuttiest, most evil, most degenerate, most illegal and complicit in human sex trafficking sites in the world. And of course, this has been a horrible problem. And the man who was killed by the female police officer is a Jewish Israeli man killed in Montreal. Left police officer dead. Reports indicate that the shooter was motivated by incel ideology. He did not target a Jewish neighborhood. So his incel ideology, he might have been actually targeting the porn sites. So you can see here, this is their offices are there in Canada. It's a Canadian company that owns all this. Some local media have reported that a suspect targeted a particular area of the city because of its proximity to the Montreal-based Aleo, formerly MindGeek, which operates several pornography websites. So far, investigators have not commented on this. But his manifesto says that's exactly what he was doing. Montreal shooter was an unhinged, radical, leftist incel. He was a Jew-hating communist censor. The murder in Montreal, he murdered a policeman in a shooting spree in a Jewish neighborhood. Soon afterward, the government journalists and elsewhere started describing the manifesto he left behind, but none of them published the actual document, which they just quoted an odd phrase from it and called him an incel. The term is somebody who's involuntary celibate, somebody who doesn't do well with women, the usual suspects, saying he's a right-wing extremist. If that was true, why is the manifesto being shown only selective government-friendly journalists? Why are the rest of it unblocked to ourselves? This just changed. Rebel News has acquired a copy of the manifesto. You can read it for yourself. And it's true the murderer had extremist ideas about women, but that's only a small portion of it. So they selectively leaked and lied about it. The rest of his rambling remarks were indistinguishable from left-wing politicians like Bernie Sanders' liberal cabinet. He praised communism. He called for the abolition of private property. He railed against the Jews, Zionism. And like Mark Carney himself, he called for censorship of the internet. So you can read the full manifesto. There you go. Goodness. The Montreal shooter was a communist. Color me shocked. Shockingly, the Montreal terrorist was a left-winger. Pronouns now were. Far left communist now, not far right. And maybe he was targeting the Jews. Maybe he was targeting the pornography industry that is overseen by Jews in that part of, and owned by Jews in that part of Montreal. If you don't like that, I mean, that's the reality, right? So if you don't like that reality, call for it to be sold or more
Pornhub had
or less
4.2 billion visits in March. The site was ranked as the 9th most popular on the planet. When I met Friedman in London, he looked more like a geeky tech entrepreneur than someone representing one of the internet's most controversial platforms. Friedman is one of a small group of partners in a private equity firm that bought Pornhub in 2023. They took over a problem. In 2020, the site was accused of hosting videos linked to sexual abuse, trafficking, and child exploitation.
Of course it does. That's the entire porn industry, obviously. Anyway, the whole thing is just a Faustian camp of the saints, nightmarish mess that just reads like a really dark Hollywood script. Shooter was a communist incel jihadist. The attack was directed at Jewish Pornhub. He killed a Muslim cop instead. The only other victim was killed by a female cop, and he was an Israeli. Few managed to escape that incel mass shooter, female cop outside the building. Montreal female cop simulator now in development. Oh no! It was a lady cop. It was a rabbi coming out of the Pornhub headquarters. Shooter was a communist. The other cop was named Muhammad. It was a gun-free zone. Took place in Canada. Imagine writing a 100-page manifesto and nobody reads your attempt at fame and gets ignored because a female cop randomly shot a rabbi. Ugh. Female cop executed a random bystander All of it is just a mess. We aren't trying to make fun of it. It's like just some type of globalist nightmare. The cop named Muhammad was killed, and his partner killed a Jewish rabbi bystander. The author of Camp of Saints wouldn't be able to come up with a better encapsulation of the endpoint of leftism. Civilians in Montreal literally just exist. Women police officers. What a nightmare. This is how you lose a high-trust society. We have huge problems on our hands. The faster we close our borders, the faster we stop insisting that everybody is exactly the same and lives by the exact same rules and standards, the more we can actually approach our problems, which, of course, the terrorist here is the main problem, and stop rotting people's brains with porn and stop rotting people's brains with left-wing communist propaganda. I think the faster that we're going to get a better society. You have to control who comes into your country. You have to control the ideologies that are pervasive inside of your country. And you have to run a high-trust society with high-functioning, competent individuals who aren't going to shoot civilians when they're spooked and scared, who can holster their gun if the president just got an assassination attempt, who can fly an Apache helicopter or put out a fire if they're the fire marshal. All of these. A critical lack of competency in our countries and in the West. It has to change. But ladies and gentlemen, the first step of that is admitting you have a problem. That's what we're doing here. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe.